Let's get started. So we're starting a new chapter, chapter 12. Oh, shut her down. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have time to go over 12.1 and 12.2 probably, all right? The problems are going to be not too bad. We're going to be talking about payroll. We're going to go over some payroll information. We're going to go over some, I guess there's quite a few terms in these two sections. And so we do want to make sure that you're following as best you can. If I wanted to just briefly show you the study guide, there's quite a few terms. I think there's like 2 sections of terms, 24 terms. So there's a lot of new knowledge or reinforcing maybe previous knowledge you knew about with payroll. And so we want to make sure we cover all that as best we can. And then we're going to be doing a couple problems with them, like always. As you see in the learning objectives, we're going to explain how people are getting paid and calculate hourly earnings. Okay. Let me zoom just a little bit. Okay, there you go. All right, paying employees. All right. Well, the first thing we're going to talk about, you're going to have to fill out a time card, and you're going to have to be able to tell how many hours they work. Okay, the amount people get paid for every hour worked is called a wage. All right. You can't work without knowing how. You should not be having to work without knowing how much you're going to be compensated for. Okay, so the government requires you to be paid and reimbursed for what you're getting paid for. All right. There's different laws involved with this, these steps. There's different ways of getting paid. One way is by salary. Okay, so you sign a contract, they guarantee you to pay you X amount of dollars for your work. And then they have what that is defined as. Different jobs have different salaries. You know, if you're under salary, there is no 40-hour work week. Okay, you just work. All right. And you might be required to work more or less, whatever the case may be. Okay. The fixed annual sum of money divided by equal pay period is called salary. You might get paid, weekly, monthly. You might get paid every 2 weeks. It just kind of depends. All right. There's things like commissions, how you get paid. Again, how we're getting paid is what we're wondering about. How do you pay this wage? Could be a fixed salary where you divide it by your yearly, divided by whatever, how are you getting paid? You could get paid commissions. Okay, so commissions we talked about, I think, before, is just a percentage of a certain amount. You get a commission based on what you're selling, or you get a commission based on hitting goals of how many things you sell. Okay. Sometimes it's percentages, sometimes it's a fixed dollar amount that you get based off of selling a certain number of items. Commissions a method of paying employees based on the sales the employee generates. They're normally considered a percentage. Okay. So these are different ways. And then we're going to have to figure out, so you're going to need to know wage, you're going to need to know salary, you're going to need to know commission. Okay, total earnings then is the total amount that we pay all the people in our company, all the workers. All right, that's going to be all the money as a company we're going to be paying. And as you as a worker, your total earnings is all the money, whether it be salary, hourly, commission, whatever, be all your money you make, including overtime. We haven't talked about overtime. But this total earnings, the total amount paid by business to an employee for their work, that's total earnings. Sometimes will be considered gross pay, gross wages, those types of things. Whenever I hear gross pay, there's always you guys are gonna have to deal with this forever. You're gonna have gross pay and net pay. Gross pay is before deductions. That's the number you see, like when you see a newspaper clipping, or they're going to be paid X amount of money. Well, that's before taxes, that's before insurance, that's before deductions. G comes before N. G is gross pay before taxes, N is net pay after taxes. That's how I've always remembered it. You'll have to fill that out on scholarship forms, credit card applications, loan, car loans, mortgage, rent, whatever. You have to fill out net pay, gross pay type stuff. Okay. 3 Green's our company that our lady has started, and she's going to do things the way, each company gets to do however they want to do it. Schools pay monthly. And so you got to budget your budget ahead of time. She wants to, says 3 Green place people to do work. She's paying them hourly. That's what they're telling us there. Pay period is the number of days a week covered by an employee's paycheck. Business must decide if they pay every week, every 2 weeks, twice a month, once a month, whatever it is. 3 Green uses a semi-monthly pay period, means they pay twice a month on the 15th and the last day. Okay. Now, different companies will do different things. If your payday falls on say like a holiday, they might pay you the day before. Okay. If you get automatic withdrawals, they'll pay you, it'll just show up in your account. Okay. So she's doing every monthly, so every 15th and the last day of the month. But you'll see this question, the pay period, in that sentence later on in study guide and test. So it's important to make sure you have it. all the amounts of money that they pay their payroll, their employees for work, is going to be called payroll. Okay, the total amount. So if our company was all of us, your total earnings plus your total earnings plus your total earnings, all of our total earnings together is the payroll for the company. Okay, now the payroll is not the actual amount, like I said, that we actually get paid. The payroll is reduced by taxes, withholdings, and other such, deductions that come around. If you contribute to your financial retirement, if you have insurance, plus family insurance, or a spouse or a kid, there's all sorts of different things. Okay. Accounting staff position that compiles, computes payroll, then prepares journals, post payroll transactions, called the payroll clerk. Okay. It could also be called like a business manager or the office manager or the, it just kind of depends. These numbers these names can fluctuate from one business to the other, but you get the idea. The person that computes payroll is going to be called the payroll clerk. Okay. So there's a lot of terms there. We're skipping the ethics part quick. So here is an example of us trying to figure out hourly pay. Okay. We're saying 3 Green is working with companies that the employees, that pay them hourly. Right. They're punching in. So I guess we can talk about this and come back and look at it. Payroll system needs to have accurate records of when the people work. A time clock is a device used to record time. When I went to UNI, I worked in the union. We would do the setup crew for the big expansion halls, and we would go by the kitchen, and we literally punch a card, we put it in there, and it'd stamp it when we started working. Okay. Other times now, I'm sure you just type in a code, right? You just type in a code, and then away you go. Or you got a manager who signs off on a timesheet. Yeah, you go to a website of some sort and clock in. Yeah, same thing as typing a code in. Whatever the company does. So this time clock could be whatever way your company does it. Okay, we need to use. They're using a traditional work schedule of 40 hours a week. If you work over 40 hours a week, they will pay you overtime. Okay. And we're rounding to the nearest quarter hour. That's important because sometimes people come in early. Sometimes people come in late. Sometimes they leave a little late for lunch, and they're just supposed to be on their honor system to work an hour here and there. Not everybody's clocking in exactly at the bell and exactly, every hour, whatever the case may be. So we're rounding to the nearest quarter hour. So they have the steps here of how they completed this. You have morning, you clocked in at 7:59, so you just round to 8. Clocked out at 12, So 8 to 12. So you go 9, 10, 11, 12. 8 to 12 is 4 hours. They clocked in around 1. They got done around 4:58. 4:53 is closer to 5 than it is to 4:50, 4:45. They're pretty smart. They got 1 minute closer. So they round up to the nearest quarter hour. So that's 5. So that's 4 hours. This 4 hours, you put 8 regular. Same as here, 8 to 12, 1 to 5, when you're rounding to the nearest quarter hour. Then here, 8 to 12 is 4 hours, 1 to 5, and then in the evening they work 2.5. So you would write 2.5 as your overtime. You guys will have to fill out a time card and get the regular hours for the period that they worked and the overtime hours. Okay? And that'll be something that you'll have to do. And that's what they're just showing you all that information at the bottom about. Now, when you get to that point, I'm assuming they're going to show us, you're going to have to do some calculations. You're going to have to take the total hours they worked, regular, times the regular pay. You're going to have to get the overtime hours they worked, times their overtime pay. So maybe it must be the next section. Boys that swipe their name. Oh, okay. So here's how they clock in. We already talked about this. Boys that swipe their name, keypad, everything. Everybody does it differently. It just kind of depends what the company is all about. The more money they have, the more extravagant. That's what they're talking about. Larger companies can afford more. You can print out a regular sheet that talks about who's getting paid, when they're coming in, when they're working, all that stuff. Okay. So that page wasn't that incredible. All right, here's how. So the one page you're going to have to figure out, like I was mentioning, you're going to have to figure out a form like this that tells you the hours that they worked. Okay. Then you're going to have to go through, now that we're here, and you're going to have to punch all these hours on a form. Regular hours times their hourly rate gives you regular earnings. Regular rate times time and a half, this 1.5, because if you work overtime, you get more pay. You guys understand that? We used to always say time and a half. That means your regular pay plus half. So 15 divided by 2, half of 15 is 750. 750 plus 15 is 22.5. Or you just multiply it by 1.5. Okay. A lot of times you time and a half you can figure out. So this means a regular work hour, they make $15 an hour. A regular overtime hour, they work 22, they make 22.5 bucks an hour. So they're compensated over the amount by half. Okay. So instead of a $15 rate, they get 22.5. The overtime hours now by an overtime rate gives you overtime earnings, right? And then you add up all your regular plus all your overtime, and that's total earnings or gross pay or gross earnings. That is the number prior to any deductions, insurance, taxes, retirement, anything. Okay. But that's what total earnings is. Okay. This is just some overview information. Hourly earnings are found using the time clock data, which we just already did. The Fair Labor Act sets rules on payments. You got to pay extra for overtime. The law requires most businesses to pay employees at least 1.5 times their normal rate. There's all sorts of goofy laws on employment. We have teachers' aides that go around and help teach kids here in school, and they can only work a certain amount of hours. Otherwise, the school would have to pay them insurance. So they can't work 40 hours a week or whatever the heck it might be. I think they got to work like 30, 28 or 31 or 32. They can't have a full-time gig. Some of my friends that are nurses, they work 36 hours a week. And that's their full-time week. They work 3 12-hour shifts, get a day off or 2 days off or 3 days off. They work 36 hours. They're just constantly doing, but that's their regular week. So there's different employment laws that are in effect for different job industries. But this just basically says you're going to get paid time and a half. Okay. And that's what the steps that are showing you how to do it. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's do work together.